Direct from the Six, world-renowned, Canada's largest city, with Canada's biggest thinkers, visionaries, and hustlers. This is Startup Talk, featuring the founders, funders, innovators, and community leaders who've led Canada's startup ecosystem right here in Toronto. You'll hear the challenges, the failures, the successes. Toronto's Startup Podcast gives you the full story direct from the entrepreneurs and influencers who've made a difference. Now, the host of Startup Talk, the founder of TorontoStarts, the Startup Coach.
No.
Too many startups try to go it alone and don't establish partnerships that they need. Strategic partnerships like the government one you have is a game changer. What advice, and obviously the strategic partnerships you have with your landlords and the different locations is something unique. What advice would you have for building strong strategic collaborations?
That's a great question. So I think many businesses, they look at partnerships, but they look at it only from the perspective of what they would get out of the partnership. So they say, hey, let's build a partnership because you're going to give me this, right? You're going to give me X. And I believe a true partnership is where you're going in with respect and trust, right? Like, so you say, I respect the problem that you're trying to solve, right? And I'm going to demonstrate that, and you can trust me to respect that, but also bring a solution to the table. And I think if both groups are doing this, that's what a true strategic partnership is. And so for us, when we first started, if you think about, we launched in retail, as an example, in a shopping mall in Newmarket. What we acknowledged is that our property partner at the time, had retail's face, and retail was facing back in 2017. We launched in December of 2018 in our first shopping mall. E-commerce was just accelerating, right? Like, so you had these spaces that were underutilized in a shopping mall. So that's a problem. How do you create a heartbeat? How do you create a buzz? So we went in and we said, hey, we can really solve this because we're going to bring workers in. And we're not competing with your tenants. But what you're going to help us solve is we need a touch point. We need a location. We need validation. We need to be beside those brands that you have in the mall, right? And so they helped us solve a problem in terms of market fit, like in terms of the validation of our brand existing next to, in one of our locations, we were right beside Nike, right? As a startup brand, to put your store right next to Nike, all of a sudden when a client is in the mall, they're saying, oh, you're a brand that's just as established as Nike, right? I say all of that because I think in strategic partnerships, you have to first look at the problems you're solving. You have to be able to say, what's our problem? What's their problem? And how do we collaborate and, show each other enough respect that we're both working on the problems that we have. My advice would be, and that's what we've been lucky enough to do over the years. That's what we continue to do, right? We always approach a partnership and say, okay, what problems are we trying to solve? And then we sit down at the table and have a very honest discussion about what we can each bring to the table for that versus, just saying, hey, this is a partnership, but we're the only ones that are winning. Doesn't make sense.
I often talk to startups and founders who do exactly the opposite, where they don't look at what's in it for your partner.
Yeah.
Like they don't think about that beforehand. They just say, hey, we should do this together. And it's like, well, great. I get approached by this all the time. Hey, we should do this. Great. That sounds like a lot of work for me.
Right.
What am I getting out of this? What does my company get? Like, how does this work? And without thinking like that, you're going to fail all the time. If you're not leading with, hey, I think together we can do this thing that's going to give you more business, it's going to give you more traction, build your brand, 1,000 different things, give you better PR because we're doing this charity event, whatever it happens to be, you got to lead with that. And otherwise, what's in it for them? It's just you being self-serving and they're not going to pay a lot of attention.
Yeah. And, listen, like This happens in everything, right? Like not just in terms of your partnership, but this applies to your personal relationship, your professional relationships, or in your organization, right? It's like, okay, what are we aligned in trying to solve here? Like, how are we solving this problem, right? And if you do that, I think really what you're able to do, or you're able to really build some great connection, right? Over time. So I agree with you 100%, Chris.
Yes.
Everything is a leap or a lesson. This is a phrase that someone had said to me, someone close, and it really resonated because, even in the challenges, right? Or you're going to learn something, right? Even if it isn't a leap forward, but it's something where you feel like, oh, I'm sitting in the pain, it's going to be a lesson. And then you'll have your leaps. And these will be the things that feel great. And all of a sudden you'll say, wow, we won the government contract. Like this will move the needle. That's amazing. But everything has value, right? Don't squander it.
Where can our listeners learn more about you and Lauft?
So our website for sure. So you can find the closest Lauft. And I think that's the best way. Go into the closest Lauft. We have, 7 locations, 2 downtown, where one is an event space and one is a Lauft. Go in and talk to our team. They're amazing and very welcoming, and you get to see it and feel it. Or go to our website, www.lauft.work.
And Lauft is LAUFT.
Correct.
And for those listening, and those links will be in the show notes if you're listening on the podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time today, Graham, and to talk to our listeners and to share some of your words of wisdom.
Thank you so much for having me. And I truly appreciate the opportunity to connect.
This has been Startup Talk, Toronto's startup podcast. For more exclusive content, the episode vault, and to be part of TorontoStarts community, visit TorontoStarts.com. Get your name on the newsletter mailing list and check out our upcoming events. For more episodes, subscribe now. And please recognize the time and work behind the scenes put into connecting you with the biggest visionaries, entrepreneurs, and innovators in Toronto by leaving a 5-star review. Join us for more next episode from Toronto's most active entrepreneur and startup community on Startup Talk.